Everybody, we are now on chapter 7 of Gulliver's Travels, and the title of this one is I Escape to Blefuscu. Luckily, my life in Lilliput remained unchanged. I took many walks and marveled at everything I saw. The very small size of everything never ceased to amaze me. The adults were about 6 inches tall, and everything else was in exact proportion. An ox was between 4 and 5 inches tall. A goose was about the size of a sparrow. Tiny animals like mice were nearly invisible to me, and I never once saw a fly. The tops of the tallest tree were only 7 feet tall. I could touch them easily. Small plants and vegetables were often too tiny to see. My life was comfortable, but not always easy. I made a simple table and a chair for myself from large trees I cut in the Royal Park. When I needed new clothes, 200 seamstresses sewed hundreds of strips of cloth together to make my shirts. It took 300 tailors to make my trousers. They measured me by placing ladders against me as I kneeled on the ground. Everything I wore looked like patchwork because the widest cloth in the country was barely 3 inches wide. My meals were prepared by 300 cooks who lived in tiny houses built next to mine. Each cook was responsible for 2 dishes. At mealtimes, 120 waiters carried the food and the drink to my table. 20 waiters at a time would climb onto the palm of my hand, and I would put them onto the table. They lifted the food up to the table on ropes slung over their side like they were drawing water from a well. The food was plentiful, but it took a lot to satisfy me. A whole platter held only a mouthful, and a whole barrel of drink contained only enough for a single swallow. A steak that would stuff 6 Lilliputans was bite-size, and I ate turkeys and geese whole. We never had seen anything that could eat as much as you, Man Mountain, the waiters said. When the emperor was informed of my lifestyle, he desired to bring the royal family to dine with me. The big day arrived. The royal family, got a couple pages stuck together. The royal family and their court came in 6 elegant carriages drawn by teams of proud horses. I lifted each carriage, horses and all, onto my table. I noticed that Filmnap, the Lord High Treasurer, was in one. He didn't like me, and I knew at once he would use this visit to convince the emperor to banish me from the kingdom. I was right. Man Mountain is costing the kingdom over 1.5 million spurge a day, your highness, Filmnap said to the emperor. A spurge is Lilliput's most valuable coin. He is also seeing the empress in private, Filmnap added. That was not true. The empress enjoyed chatting with me, but she always had a servant with her. Unfortunately, the emperor believed Filmnap. I heard about this when a member of the court came into my house in secret. I had once done him a kindness, and he repaid it by telling me of this treachery. Skyrich Bullygum, Filmnap, and others accuse you of treason, he said into my ear. They have drawn up a list of serious charges. My secret informant pulled a scroll from his pocket, and he began to read. These are the charges of treason against Man Mountain. He spit in the royal palace, which is against the law. He refused the emperor's orders to destroy Blefuscu by saying he did not believe in destroying innocent lives. He met with Blefuscu's ambassadors when they came to sue for peace, and he is planning a trip to Blefuscu. What will they do with me? I asked. My informant's face turned very dark. The sentence for these crimes is death, he said. I shuddered as he described how they would carry out the sentence. They plan to set your house on fire while you are sleeping, my informant said. Another plan is to shoot 20,000 poisoned arrows into your face. Someone even suggested that your servants put poisonous juices in your clothes. When are they going to do this? I asked. I knew that any of the sentences could kill me. My informant shook his head. Luckily, the emperor had a sentence of death. The emperor said a sentence of death was too harsh. He has ordered your life spared, and instead they will put out your eyes. I put my hands to my eyes. They would do that? I asked. Yes, my informant said. Skyrish Bulgrim said that your sentence is too mild. You could still spit in the palace or take Lilliput's warships to Blefuscu. Filmnap agreed with him. He said the cost to feed you would bankrupt the treasury. What did the emperor say to that? I asked. I was growing quite worried. He said that it would be acceptable to put out your eyes and then slowly starve you to death. When will they carry out this terrible sentence? I asked. It was clear to me that I had to make plans to save my life. In 3 days, my friend suggested. 20 of His Majesty's surgeons will shoot arrows into your eyes while you lie on the ground. I wouldn't permit it, I said angrily. They didn't think about that, my friend said. My advice is to save yourself. I agree, I said. I put the man on the ground and he slipped away. I laid on my back in my house thinking, I could destroy this whole country with a bombardment of boulders, I said to myself, but I promised the emperor that I would not use my strength against him. I sat up quickly as a brilliant idea flashed through my mind. I bumped my head on the ceiling, but I ignored the pain. I have it, I exclaimed. The emperor has given me permission to visit Blefuscu, so that is what I will do. I simply won't tell him that I'm going. I wrapped my clothes and my belongings in a bundle and crawled out of my little house for the last time. I turned towards the coast, and I ran there without stopping. Farmers in their houses along the way probably woke up thinking that there was an earthquake. The Lilliputian fleet lay at anchor in the harbor. I put my bundle of belongings on the largest man of war and cut its chain. I threw the chain over my shoulder and I started towards Blefuscu. I stopped halfway across the channel and turned for a last look at the marvelous kingdom of Lilliput. Then I waded across into the royal port of Blefuscu. And that is the end of chapter 7.